Thank you all for joining. Welcome to the Highlights Foundation webinar. The point or the goal here is to give a little sense of crafting successful author and illustrator visits. And thankfully, Carmen and Aram and Andrea and Jan were all willing to take a few minutes to just talk about the workshop we do have coming up at the end of April. So if you, let's see, I think I'll get into some logistics as we get going, but I wanted to start, Carmen, and see if you would introduce yourself and talk about your business and then a little bit about the author visits course.
Sounds good. So my name, of course, is Carmen Oliver, and I started the booking biz actually back in 2014. When I was pre-published, I had the opportunity to work with Bethany Hegedus, and we were doing some teaching together, and we wanted to expand working together. And so we started looking at ways at how that might look. And one of the things that she mentioned, helping her to book school visits. And of course, I was all over that. I mean, it's the best of both worlds, working with authors and illustrators and working with librarians and teachers and educators and event organizers. And so it really is, so it was formed back in 2014. And it's really the focus of what I do is helping to support the authors and illustrators in their speaking journey, making sure that I handle all of the details for them so that they can focus on their presentations and their speaking abilities. So I handle all of the contract negotiations, I handle all the invoicing, I handle all of the emails that go back and forth, and all the details that you need to set up a visit. I have a number of clients that I work with now, we've got about over 50, and they are in all different kinds of genres. It's important, I think, for, we want to be an advocate for authors and illustrators out there doing what they do. And so, that's kind of where I started. And, we look for a good presenter. I think it's really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why this workshop is so important, is because I believe that a lot of people don't even realize their potential. And so this workshop, this almost week-long workshop, really pulls out the strengths of the individuals in focusing their speaking abilities and crafting school visits and presentations that they can take out in the real world. So to get into a little bit more about why it's important in the publishing world, it's an important part of your creating your book. After you've created your book and kind of getting it out there, I kind of jotted down a couple of things that leapt to mind. But one of the most important things that we can't forget about it is for publishing. We are really, in going out to these schools and in getting into the hearts and minds of young students, we're really inspiring and empowering the next generation of writers and illustrators. And I think that's like the number one goal. And I actually have a little show and tell here, but this is actually from a class. I don't know if you can see it, but I visited at the West Texas Book Festival. I was able to go in and visit with a school there, and I was able to visit with at Johnston Elementary with Ms. Hartman's and Ms. Espinosa's class. And after doing my school visit, one of the things that I like to leave them with is to challenge them. I believe that the Jaguars, or whatever school it is, or whatever school model they have is that they're the next. They are the best reading buddies. And so I challenged them. I thought they could tell the story that I wrote even better. And so they did. And this is their book from the first graders there. And so this is, this is for all the Thomases and Jessies out there, the Abigails. These are for all of those authors, those young authors that now believe that their voice matters and that they have a story to tell. So, that's one of the most important things is you're building, publishers need voices. They need authors, they need illustrators. They can't produce the books without them. And so one of the jobs that we do, I feel, in being an author illustrator is helping to raise that up. Making connections is another really important part for publishing, to see the authors out there being visible, making connections with your books. You're the best advocate for your book. Yes, your publisher is going to do their best to support you, but nobody knows your story the way you do. And, you know, it translates into, again, spreading the joy of reading and writing. That's what you're doing out there. And, you know, when you're spreading the joy of reading and writing with students, they are, again, more empowered to pick up a book. It may not be your book, but they're empowered to pick up a book and find the right book. So I think that's another important part of it. I mean, and it all translates to the bottom line. I mean, we can't forget about the bottom line for publishers. They can't stay in business unless books are being sold. And I think a lot of the time we find books because we make a connection with the author and illustrator. And through their school visit, we learn more about them and what's important to them. And it turns out that, you know, a lot of those things are what are important to those students and what are important to the educators. And then through that connection, they're empowered to, they want to buy your book too, because, you know, you've touched their heart. You've made a difference in their life for the time that you were there. So, and I think it also shows a publisher, when you're going out and doing school visits, that you're not going to let your own fear or self-doubt get in your way. That it's going to open up other possibilities for speaking opportunities. And it's going to show your publisher that you're kind of that can-do kind of person, that you are passionate and you are out there wanting to give your book the best possible life it can be. So there's a number of different things that, you know, I feel that is an important part to the publishing process of getting out there and doing these school visits. I rambled, I know, right?
That's great. Thank you, Carmen. Now, shifting a little bit to the workshop, Crafting Successful Author and Illustrator Visits, can you talk us through a little bit kind of the agenda and the arc of the week and how the workshop happens from the arrival on Sunday afternoon through, I think it's Thursday lunchtime?
Sure, absolutely. So really the first night we get together, it's more of an informal time to meet and greet each other. We are going to have a couple of exercises that will warm everybody up, and we will really start launching into the nitty-gritty, the building of your author workshop the next morning. We will run through presentations that will help you define the content that needs to go into your school visit presentation. You will come with ideas that you have. We will help you flesh them out. We will help you build in components about why why you do what you do. Why did you write this book? What is it? What are your unique tools and talents that you have to share with students? How do you want to empower them? I believe every different book has a different voice and something uniquely different that you have to say with it. And so we want to work with the attendees to help draw that out so that they can incorporate it into their school visits. So we spend a good portion of the morning helping them to tap into that and to pull from their childhood and to pull from experiences in their life that kids can relate to. We also spend a good portion of time talking about the other kinds of presentations that we develop as an author. And Jan will lead them through determining all the different places and different speaking opportunities that are out there. And then the kinds of presentations that we can deliver to reach audiences like educators, like librarians at the state and the Reading State conferences that you can attend, writing conferences that you may want to speak to, illustrating workshops that you may want to go to. So we spend time on hoping to create ideas for you, for your, again, pulling from your own unique tools and talents and what you have to say and your own experience, but crafting those as well so that when you leave, you also have some ideas about those kinds of opportunities. And then we also want you to understand the business side of doing these kind of speaking engagements. And there's a lot of information that's involved in that too. So we want to make sure that we equip you with all the tools that you have to go out there and be successful. So we tap into a little bit of marketing and publicity for yourself and how you can help build your authentic self and your brand. So we do a little bit of on that. And then we spend a lot of the day the next few days crafting your school visit, working with you, being available. All of the authors that are there and the speakers that are there are all there to support and to encourage you and to help you build your school visit program. So whether you choose to build it in PowerPoint, whether you have more of a storytelling voice and you don't want to use any kind of tech, we help you. We talk about the pros and cons of that. We talk about, but ultimately we let you guide us with your comfort level, and we also push you. We also push you outside of your comfort level a bit. We want to see you grow and stretch through the week. And, I can only tell you from some of the past students that we've had, that they really, you really do, where you come in from the beginning of the week and kind of figuring, with self-doubts, to where you go at the end of the week. Because at the end of the week, you have a school visit program that you now take into school. And you stand in front of, a room full of students, and you present your program, and you get invaluable. We tape it. You get to see yourself back, which I know is always hard, but it's such a great opportunity to learn from. And everybody there is there to support you. And so we work through the critique process of looking at your school visit after you've done it as well, to give you invaluable feedback on how you can tweak it to make it even better if you want to. So, and then we kind of finish off with a end of week panel on anything that we haven't touched on, an opportunity to ask those last minute questions. So that make sure that we have given you everything you need to go out there and succeed in your speaking career.
Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to I think sometimes it's always better when you can hear. I can tell you, specifically, why I think the workshop is so powerful. I've kind of outlined a little bit of the course material, but I think it's important to hear sometimes from past attendees. And, I remember Lee Henderson, when she came through our workshop, she said that she felt that it was a safe environment, and that she trusted that we were all there to help her put her best foot forward. And it helped her to get through the nerves, to get past her self-doubt. And she realized afterwards, coming into it thinking, she really wasn't sure she could do it, to coming away feeling like there wasn't any event that she couldn't now handle. And I think that's really important, because it's all about, the attendees that are coming. We're just pulling from their strengths and hoping to encourage and support them. And I also remember one of the things that comes from, testing these school visits out in a live classroom or in an auditorium at the school, is you figure out what works and doesn't work. And you also start to figure out, even before that, when we're going through the process of setting up your school visit. I remember we had an artist who was an author illustrator who wanted to do a craft activity within her school visit program. And by testing it out first, we were able to walk her through and say, okay, you're not going to have time to do that activity unless you have it boiled down into really simple steps. So that meant all the materials had to be pre-cut and ready to go, because she wanted to talk and do some teaching before she moved into the activity. And so by taking her through all those kinds of steps in crafting the school visit, we were able to, kind of troubleshoot all the areas that could have possibly caused her not to have a successful school visit. And so, you get to work out all those kinks during the program.
Oh, that's great. And speaking of participants, we have 2 participants who actually will be joining us as faculty this year. Andrea, would you be willing to talk a little bit about, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experience and what you'll be talking about at the workshop?
Yes, my name is Andrea Loney, and I write picture books. I wrote Take a Picture of Me, James Vanderzee, which is a picture book biography of a Harlem Renaissance photographer. It was nominated for an NAACP award. I wrote a book called Bunny Bear, which was on the American Library Association Rainbow List. I have some more books that are going to be coming out, and I loved this workshop because aside from writing books and teaching and other stuff, I do author visits. And before this workshop, I was focused on school visits, I guess, trying to learn how to do school visits, really focused on trying to get the courage to do the school visits, because I had ideas, but I wasn't really sure how to pull it together. But then when I went through the week-long workshop, I really got the materials I needed. I got these individual building blocks that I could combine in all these different ways for all different types of author visits. So it wasn't just about school visits. It was library visits. It was church visits. It was giving speeches at conferences. It was all these different things. And I really, it all came down to taking this workshop and really focusing on what it is that I personally had to say as an author, as a creator, as somebody who makes books for children. And it was really wonderful to see how everybody blossomed and grew their own presentations in their own specific ways throughout the workshop. That part really was fascinating, and I'm excited to see what happens this year.
Thank you. Aram, let me unmute you. And will you talk a little bit? Hi, Aram. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Will you talk a little bit about your experience and introduce yourself, please?
Of course, of course. My name is Aram Kim. I'm an author and illustrator of picture books. My first book is Cat on the Bus, and the second book is called No Kimchi for Me. So for any of pre-published authors or soon-to-be published authors, I really believe this is a must workshop that you have to take. So I took this workshop a few months before my second book came out. So by then I had done a few school visits. I enjoy them very much, but also I thought that they're just like I could do it better, but I just didn't know how. So I was looking for the ways, and I found this workshop from Highlights Foundation. And to be honest, 5 days felt so long to do public speaking classes. And I wasn't sure if I could go through 5 days learning about public speaking. So I was very hesitant, but then I was very determined to get my school visit better, because as Carmen said before, school visits is so vital for author life. It is so important to meet young readers and then see what they think of your books and inspire them. And it is a very like a big motivation for authors to meet them in person. And I strongly believe that my young audience deserve the better presentation. So I finally decided to take it, and I keep telling everyone that that was the best decision I ever made for my career as an author. We learned so much. 5 days was so short. By the end, everyone was saying that we needed a day more. We learned so much. And then, as Carmen and Andrea said, there is so much potential in everyone that faculty members are so devoted and dedicated to bring out. And it was a great experience to learn about the fundamentals of school visits and all the other conferences and workshops. And I still go back to the documents that I received from Jen and Carmen from that time, from years ago. We got a huge binder full of information from Jen about all, like, any kind of possible conferences that authors can apply to. And I still go back to it. And just the other day, I was scheduling a school visit, which didn't go as smoothly as before. And I was going back to Carmen's contract example that we received. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, like, I will be getting help with this workshop forever in my life. I might sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. Because it was really the best workshop that I have ever taken and the best decision I ever made.
Wow. Thanks, Aram. Let's see, Jan, I will unmute you. Hi, Jan. Will you talk a little bit about
it's a pleasure it's a pleasure to be here and chatting with everybody, and good to connect with Carmen and Aram and Andrea too. My relationship with the Highlights Foundation and with the Crafting an Author and Illustrator visit goes back quite a few years. When my first book came out, I took the course, and I was very nervous, as is everybody, when they join us. And what I was nervous about was, is this course going to force me to be somebody that I'm not? And what I discovered was just the opposite. To do a good author visit, the main thing I think is to be yourself, is to be sincere, to be honest, and to give to the audience so that they'll return what you're giving them. And I think I was an English teacher, so I thought that I was familiar with how to do a presentation in a classroom. But this is different because as an English teacher or as a teacher of any course, you have a rapport with students. You're used to them, and there's a comfort level. When you're doing a school visit, you walk into a completely new audience, and you only have about 40 minutes, or you might be doing an assembly, in which case you might have 200 or 300 or 400 students. So there are techniques that I was able to learn and now able to pass on to others, so that you are more comfortable with doing a presentation to any audience. And so to that point, Carmen and Aram alluded to the educational and library markers. That's one of the things I'll talk about. And it is a different type of a talk. And so there are skills and techniques that you need to think about when you're doing those kinds of talks. We'll talk some about blending in and introducing and blending your reading, because as Carmen was talking about, your book is what it is that has got you into the school visit or into the educational setting. So you want to be able to use your book effectively. And that means knowing how to set the scene, what passage to choose, how to elicit questions from students, how to extrapolate. So that's one of the things we'll talk about too. And Carmen also mentioned the PowerPoint, and that's a very interesting. You don't have to do a PowerPoint. Some of our authors don't. When I first started, I never did. There's a tendency or a skill to doing a PowerPoint so that you don't lose yourself in the PowerPoint in questions such as how much text do I use? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish with a PowerPoint? So those are some of the things that I'll be focusing on. But the main thing is, and I think this is really important for anybody who wants to take the course, is don't worry. Everybody's nervous, and that really isn't a bad thing. The nervousness is, I heard one person say, it's the electricity needed for you to shine, and that always made sense to me.
I like that. Thank you, Jan. Carmen, we have a question. Someone says here she has a book that was self-published a few years ago and had some great school visits, but feeling hesitant about pushing this book now that it is a little older. But question, is it still a good workshop to attend, or is it better to wait until the next book comes out?
Oh, no. I mean, excuse me. I think it would be something that you want to give your book as long a life as possible. You know, with self-publishing, you can, you have a little bit more control of it not going out of print. But, there was a reason why you created that book, and there was a reason why, you have something important to say with that. And that message still needs to be carried into schools, and you need to make those connections with those students. And I think we can all of us have been at that point where we've created presentations, and after we've delivered it numerous times and we've heard others speak, think to ourselves, there's probably ways I can improve this. There's probably a way I can do this better. And I think, learning those skill set now, even before the next book comes out, is very important. It's just, again, it's just setting you up to be even more successful for when the next book comes out. We have numerous self-published authors that have come through and have done super, super well. They were doing some school visits beforehand and enjoying them, but the way we saw them deliver their programs at the end of the week was just incredible. See their confidence in themselves and the importance of what they had to say just completely blossom. And how to incorporate, and Jan mentioned this, how to incorporate their book effectively into their workshop and into their school visit program is really key as well. So yeah, I personally believe that you should always be investing in yourself. I do so myself, constantly taking different kinds of classes and workshops. And I think this would just be something that could end up benefiting you and setting you up for not just your next book, but the book after that and the one from that, because you're going to learn also, right now, maybe you're only doing school visits. We're also going to equip you with tools so that you can broaden your speaking opportunities. Maybe you are going to be the next workshop presenter at a Highlights Foundation class. Maybe you're going to be teaching somewhere else as well and sharing your knowledge. So there's a lot that comes out of this workshop.
Great. And I think we've had debut authors, we've had mid-career authors, and we've had pre-published authors looking to build their platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we had, I think it was Paula Hyman Chase, I believe it was, when she came through. She was actually launching a brand new book in a different genre. And so she was actually going to be speaking to a different audience. And so she wanted to incorporate and build a new program. And she hadn't spoken to that audience before. And there are differences that you need to learn and understand about. And so we were able to, help her. She came in with a great idea, and we were able to see her, help her along the way into creating a brand new program, and then seeing her take it out into schools. So it's wonderful.
I see a note here from Pat saying, when attending your class, could we bring our books to show along with other information or props that we want to use for our presentation? Absolutely, right? That's, you want people to bring their own stuff?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And a note from our friend Roman, who attended the Journey workshop that you were hosting, Carmen, in 2017, and his book is coming out next year. So
yeah, so proud of Roman. We're so excited.
So I won't go into the details about the Highlights Foundation and the logistics, but we make the logistics signing up real easy. It's all right on our website, highlightsfoundation.org, and you can find the Crafting Successful School Visits workshop, or I think we call it Author and Illustrator Visits because it's more than that. So please, if you are interested in attending, please do take a look, and we're always happy to talk to you. Any parting thoughts, Andrea, Aram, Carmen, before we go?
My parting thoughts are I just can't recommend this workshop enough, especially for the people who are I'm too shy to do this. The year that I did it, it was interesting. I think there were 5 of us, 6 of us. I'm pretty extroverted. 6. I used to be a stand-up comedian. So I was very out there and gregarious. And the other author and author illustrators seemed to be more, a little bit more reserved. But to see how they translated their own individual personalities into their workshops, how they made us laugh, how they brought us to tears, how they just transformed the energy with what they learned in the workshop was so inspiring to me. And I really want that for all the authors who go and do visits, so that these kids can see themselves in what we do, because I feel that's such an important thing, to go out into the world with our books, do our presentations, and have someone say, hey, this person is like me in this way, or this person's like me in that way, and they're doing it, and if they can do that, I can do it too.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is too, sometimes we have authors come in, they've set themselves up with a goal. So they actually have lined up a speaking opportunity, but they don't have the presentation created. And so I remember when Emily Whitman came to us, she was going to be speaking at an Oregon writing festival. And so she felt like after our workshop, she felt so much more that she came away with the skills and the content to deliver at that festival. Like she felt like it was a huge success in part because of what she'd learned with us. She just was more self-confident. She did writing exercises with them that she helped develop while she was with it at Highlights. And so, I mean, I think everybody, all of us come into it fears and with nerves, and that's completely normal. I just don't want it to stop anybody from, pushing themselves a little bit farther along, because we will help, we will work with you. And that by practicing again and again, that will help calm that. The more prepared you are for a talk, the less the nerves get out of control.
And I will say this quickly. So other than the content of the workshop itself, it was really valuable to build this long-lasting relationship with other authors who are in all different stages of their career. This workshop is especially intimate compared to all the other great workshops. So you just like get to know one another so closely, and then you see everyone else in the publishing journey all the time, which is really, really amazing. And that's a great support to have. And in addition, I always have to say the food in Highlights is the best in the world. You will be well nourished. You will have to fight not to eat so much. They have the great health food. So you will be not only learning so much, but you will also nourish your body as well. I just had to say that.
And the best trails to walk on too, to keep your mind fresh and clear.
And I do think that's part of the Highlights Foundation experience, is the food and the care that we give to our students and our participants, and also the intimacy and the nurturing environment. So this workshop will have anywhere from 5 to 10 students. So you will get a chance to get to know each other really well. And because we're in a retreat center, you'll have your own private room, either in a cabin or in the lodge. You've got time on your own to think and work on your project. And you've got time at meal time to get to know the participants on a personal level, as well as classroom time. So there really is a nice mix to be had there. So I have, looks like there's one more question. And Lisa asks, she doesn't have her book being published right away, but wants to go into schools and read her stories and to tell the kids stories and encourage them to read. And so it sounds like she's more interested in how do I start to get into the schools even without my book.
Well, you still have to build a program and a presentation. And so this workshop, definitely works on that, whether there's a book to go along with it. We've got quite a few storytellers out there that are going into schools and sharing their stories without physical books behind it. And so you can be doing that, obviously coming through the workshop, you're going to get a lot of tools from us to help build those, but you can certainly build it outside of the workshop and still go into schools as well. There's a lot of wonderful storytellers out there that have been, taking stories that have been passed down from generation to generation, or creating their own, that are going into schools and sharing their love for literature and writing. So.
Thank you. And finally, Pat, yes, this is one we hope to offer every year, and I know it's always hard for the timing to be just right. So if this year doesn't work for you, hopefully you'll be able to find us in the future years. So thank you, Andrea, Aram, Carmen, and Jan for taking the time to talk. This was great. I appreciate it. And we are only 45 days away, so I will see you at the Highlights Foundation in just a few weeks.